After the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix in 2023, everyone, myself included, was calling it Fire Festival 2.0. And we weren't wrong. Thanks to overpriced sandwiches, exorbitant ticket prices, a low-quality track, and unusually cold temperatures thanks to the race running in the middle of the night in November, we were right to be critical. Local businesses were empty and were even telling people to stay away unless they were attending the race. After Sainz's Ferrari was totaled by a manhole cover flying off, the practice session was ended and fans weren't even offered a refund. So the next day, F1 was slapped with a class action lawsuit over 30,000 people strong. America. Welcome to Race Weekend Update. Let's talk about how Vegas is growing on me. After 2023, the Las Vegas Grand Prix was looking like Lance Stroll's career. Underwhelming, but propped up by huge financial backing. But, unlike Lance Stroll, the event organizers learned from their mistakes and improved this year. Ticket prices were much more reasonable and most included free food, and they didn't appear to be trying to block the view of the race like they did in the first year. They did lean into the one unique aspect that this event brings to the racing. We'll get to that later. A world championship is supposed to be the ultimate test of a car and driver, putting them through as many different scenarios as possible to prove that they are unequivocally the best in the world. And it's no secret that the Formula One calendar has become bloated with street circuits and other races that bring nothing new to the table. And at first glance, Las Vegas appeared to be one of those. But thanks to the fact they race at midnight in November, Vegas brings a new test to the table in the form of single-digit weather. It was George Russell who said that racing in the cold feels like racing in the wet. And wet races are always some of the best because they level the playing field. Brazil was incredible this year for that very reason, and I even changed up my fantasy team before this race to add George to it because he is so good in low grip conditions. Frankly, even though this track looks like a dead pig, shout out David Cameron, thanks to the cold weather, it delivers when it comes to exciting racing. We saw a ton of overtakes, with second place swapping hands 10 times between 5 different drivers. But nobody was able to touch Russell, who took the most commanding victory of his entire career. And right behind him was Lewis Hamilton, who fought his way up from 10th on the grid without so much as a safety car to help him. Truly, it was a weekend of pure skill expression. And for those of us who enjoy watching professional athletes performing at their finest, it was a treat to watch. Pierre Gasly even qualified in second place, but Alpine is as Alpine does, and his engine shat the bed so publicly you'd think it was divorcing Johnny Depp. Meanwhile, his teammate Esteban Ocon missed his pit box and had to try again next lap, essentially giving himself a drive-through penalty for being an idiot. And that's not all. Ferrari closed the gap to McLaren. There's now just 24 points between them, and Charles Leclerc closed the gap to Lando Norris, putting himself just 21 points behind the guy who, until this weekend, was challenging for the title. Ironically, one of my biggest criticisms prior to the first Las Vegas Grand Prix was the timing. November weather in Vegas is typically cold, especially in the middle of the night. But now, it's the only reason I actually like the race. If they moved it to a warmer time of year, it would lose the one thing that makes it special. And speaking of special, we have a special guest we haven't seen in a while. The Canadian Positivity Guy. Well, you've heard the British guys enough, so why don't you listen to somebody else for a change? As a Canadian, I'm used to cold weather, but if there's one thing I enjoy more than fresh powdered snow, it's watching people from other countries deal with what I would consider to be mild temperatures. The temperatures in Las Vegas were reported to be between 10 and 17 degrees Celsius all weekend, which to me is like a warm autumn day or a cold summer day. I fully accept that 10 degrees Celsius, the coldest it got during the Grand Prix, is cold for Formula One cars, but not for human beings. The outfits this weekend were hilarious. It seemed like there were only 2 choices of outfits in the paddock this weekend. Either a parka or full sequins. Given how many people in the F1 traveling circus were in full winter attire, I was surprised to see how many of them chose instead to dress like they were auditioning for the Ziegfeld Follies. And frankly, I respect that. If ever there was a time to be flamboyant, it's when you're in Vegas. And even though Crofty was all in on the sequins, there was one outfit that left me scratching my head. Why the heck was Will Buxton wearing a Peanuts branded jacket? The last time I saw a brand that irrelevant in a Formula One broadcast, it was a title sponsor of Haas. And now, back to your regularly scheduled programming. This week, for the poll of the week, I asked, how do you feel about the Las Vegas Grand Prix going forward? And honestly, I'm surprised how few people want to see it removed from the calendar compared to last year. So I guess there's something to be said for learning from your past mistakes and improving the next year. Public sentiment clearly reflects that. And now, back by popular demand, it's the spicy joke of the week. Max Verstappen took his 4th world championship at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, kicking off a huge night of partying and celebrations for him and race winner George Russell. Max even got a drunken phone call from Daniel Ricciardo, who choked out a "congratulations on the win" between sobs right before giving his toaster a bath.